Be me, Alina, 26 years old, female. Be living in a comfortable two-bedroom apartment with my boyfriend, Julian. Julian is a 27-year-old male, works as a graphic designer. We have been together for 3 years and lived together for 1 year. Everything used to be perfect, or at least it felt that way. Julian is the kind of man who notices the little things. He remembers my favorite coffee order even when the shop changes their menu. He used to pull me close while we were cooking dinner. He would kiss the top of my head while I was washing dishes. We had a very active physical relationship, very affectionate. It was the kind of connection where I never had to wonder if he wanted me. Then, about 6 months ago, everything changed because of one night. It was a Tuesday, and I had a terrible day at my job as a junior accountant. My boss had been breathing down my neck about a spreadsheet error. I had a massive headache and just wanted to rot on the couch. Julian came home full of energy, smelling like the outdoors and rain. He tried to be playful, started kissing my neck while I was trying to read. I was so overstimulated and tired that I snapped. I told him to please stop and that I was not in the mood for any of that. I did not just say no, I said it with a sharp, cold edge in my voice. I told him his hands were cold and he was being annoying. He looked like I had physically slapped him across the face. He apologized immediately, pulled back, and went to the kitchen. I felt bad, but I figured I would just make it up to him the next day. I thought it was just a normal couple moment where one person is grumpy. Except the next day came and went, and he did not touch me. The next weekend came, and he stayed on his side of the bed. At first, I thought he was just giving me space because I asked for it. I appreciated the peace for a few days, honestly. But then a week turned into 2 weeks, and 2 weeks turned into a month. Now it has been 6 months since Julian has initiated any kind of intimacy. He does not kiss me hello anymore, just a polite wave or a nod. He does not cuddle me on the couch while we watch movies. He stays on the far edge of the king-sized bed like there is an invisible wall. He is still nice, he still does the dishes and asks about my day. But the heat is gone, and I feel like I am living with a very polite roommate. I am sitting at my desk at work, staring at a blank document. I cannot focus because all I can think about is how much I miss him. I feel like a ghost in my own home, haunting a man who used to love me. My friend Sienna notices I am zoning out and walks over to my desk. Sienna is a 30-year-old female who has been married for 5 years. She asks me what is wrong and if Julian and I are fighting. I tell her we are not fighting, which is the weirdest part of all. We never argue, we never shout, we just exist in this polite silence. I explain the Tuesday night incident from 6 months ago. Sienna looks at me with a look of genuine pity that makes me feel small. She tells me that for some men, a sharp rejection feels like a total shutdown. She says Julian might have internalized that rejection as a sign I am not interested. I tell her that is crazy because we have been together for 3 years. She shrugs and tells me that men can be fragile in ways they do not show. I spend the rest of the afternoon feeling like a complete idiot. I decide that tonight is the night I am going to fix this. I stop at the grocery store on the way home to buy ingredients for his favorite meal. I buy steak, potatoes, and a bottle of expensive red wine. I am nervous, my heart is pounding against my ribs like a trapped bird. I get home to our apartment and start cooking immediately. The smell of searing meat fills the kitchen, making the place feel alive. Julian walks through the door at 6 o'clock sharp, looking tired. He sees the table set and the wine poured and he looks confused. He asks if we are celebrating something or if he forgot an anniversary. I tell him no, I just wanted to do something nice for him. He smiles, but it is a small, guarded smile that does not reach his eyes. We sit down to eat and the conversation is the same as always. We talk about his design projects and my spreadsheets. We talk about the weather and the neighbor's loud dog. I am trying to find a way to bridge the gap, to reach out and touch his hand. Every time I move my hand toward his, I freeze up with fear. I am afraid he will pull away the way I pulled away that Tuesday. The meal ends and he thanks me for the dinner, saying it was delicious. He starts loading the dishwasher, his back turned to me. This is my moment. I need to say something or do something now. I walk up behind him and wrap my arms around his waist. I press my face against his back and I can feel his muscles go rigid. He does not lean back into me, he just stands there perfectly still. He asks me what I am doing in a voice that is way too calm. I tell him I miss him and that I am sorry for how I acted months ago. He takes a deep breath and gently unpries my hands from his waist. He turns around and looks at me, and his expression is heartbreaking. He tells me it is okay and that he is not mad at me anymore. But he does not hug me back, he just goes back to the dishes. I go to the bedroom and cry quietly so he won't hear me through the door. I feel like I have broken something that cannot be glued back together. The next few days are even more awkward than before. I try to be extra affectionate, but every time I touch him, he flinches. It is not a big flinch, just a subtle pulling away, a slight shift in posture. It hurts worse than if he had just yelled at me. I realize that by turning him down so harshly, I hurt his pride and his heart. I made him feel like his affection was a burden or something gross. I decide to talk to my older brother, Silas, who is a 32-year-old male. Silas is a very straightforward guy who does not sugarcoat anything. We meet for coffee on a Saturday morning at a small cafe near the park. I tell him everything from the rejection to the current Cold War. Silas sighs and leans back in his chair, looking at the ceiling. He tells me that Julian is likely protecting himself from being hurt again. He says that when a man opens himself up like that and gets shut down, it stings. Especially if he felt like he was being a good partner and got treated like a pest. Silas tells me that Julian has probably built a wall to keep himself safe. He says I cannot just expect the wall to crumble because I made a mistake. I ask Silas how I am supposed to fix it if he won't let me get close. Silas tells me I have to be patient and I have to be the one to lead now. He says I have to show him that I actually want him, not just that I feel guilty. I go home and think about what Silas said for a long time. I realize I have been waiting for Julian to go back to the way he was. I have been waiting for him to be the pursuer again, to take the risk. But he already took the risk for years, and I am the one who stopped the momentum. The burden of rebuilding the bridge is on me, not him. I decide to stop being passive and start being intentional. That night, I don't wait for him to go to bed first like I usually do. I go into the living room where he is reading a book on the armchair. I don't ask, I just sit on the floor by his feet and lean my head on his knee. He freezes for a second, then he slowly puts his hand on my shoulder. It is the first time he has initiated contact in months, even if it is small. We sit like that for an hour, not saying a word, just being near each other. It feels like a tiny victory, a crack in the wall he built around himself. The next morning, I wake up early and make him breakfast. I don't make a big deal out of it, I just leave it on the counter with a note. The note says, "I love you and I love having you in my life." I see him read the note before he leaves for work, and he tucks it in his pocket. This goes on for a few weeks, small gestures of affection without pressure. I touch his arm when we are talking, I give him quick hugs. I don't ask for anything in return, I just give him the warmth I took away. I can see him slowly starting to relax around me again. His shoulders aren't as hunched, his voice isn't as guarded. One Friday evening, we are sitting on the couch together. The room is dark, lit only by the blue glow of the television screen. We are watching some nature documentary about the deep ocean. Julian reaches out and takes my hand, lacing his fingers with mine. My heart skips a beat and I feel a rush of warmth through my chest. I squeeze his hand back and lean my head on his shoulder. He doesn't move away, he leans his head against mine. We sit there in the dark, and for the first time in months I feel safe. I feel like we are finally on the same team again. but there is still the big elephant in the room, the lack of real intimacy. I know we need to talk about it, but I am terrified of the conversation. I am afraid that if we talk about it, it will become too real and final. Another week passes and the tension is building again, but in a different way. It is no longer a cold tension, it is a nervous, electric tension. We are both hovering around the subject, neither of us brave enough to jump. I decide that I cannot live like this anymore, wondering where we stand. On a Saturday night, after a few glasses of wine, I finally speak up. Julian is sitting at the kitchen table, sketching something in his notebook. I sit down across from him and look him straight in the eyes. I tell him we need to talk about what happened 6 months ago. He stops sketching and looks down at the paper, his jaw tightening. I tell him I know I hurt him and that I have been a terrible partner lately. I tell him that my rejection that night wasn't about him, it was about me. I was stressed and tired and I took it out on the person I love most. I start to cry and I hate that I am crying, but I can't help it. I tell him I feel like I lost him that night and I don't know how to get him back. Julian finally looks up at me and his eyes are wet too. He tells me that it wasn't just that one night, although that was the start. He says he felt like he was always the one trying to make things happen. He felt like he was performing for me, trying to earn my affection. When I snapped at him, it felt like a confirmation of his worst fear. He thought that I was tired of him, that I didn't find him attractive anymore. He says he stopped touching me because he didn't want to feel like a predator. He didn't want to feel like he was forcing himself on someone who didn't want him. Hearing him say those words makes my heart ache with a physical pain. I realized I had made the most important person in my life feel like a stranger. I get up from my chair and walk around the table to him. He stands up too, and we are standing face to face in the quiet kitchen. I tell him that he is the most attractive man I have ever known. I tell him that I want him every single day, even when I am tired or grumpy. I tell him that I am so sorry for making him doubt himself. Julian looks at me for a long time, searching my face for the truth. Then he finally reaches out and pulls me into a real, tight hug. He buries his face in my neck and I can feel him shaking slightly. I hold him as hard as I can, trying to pour all my love into the embrace. We stay like that for what feels like an hour, just holding onto each other. It feels like the wall has finally crumbled into dust. We go to the bedroom together, and it is not like it was before. It is better because it is more honest and more vulnerable. There is no performance, just two people who almost lost each other. We spend the rest of the night talking and being close. We talk about our fears and our hopes for the future. Julian tells me he wants to be better at communicating when he feels hurt. I tell him I want to be better at being soft, even when the world is hard. The next morning, the sun is shining through the bedroom curtains. Julian is still asleep, looking peaceful and handsome in the morning light. I feel a sense of peace that I haven't felt in half a year. I realize that relationships are not just about the easy times. They are about how you handle the moments when things go wrong. They are about the work you put in to fix the cracks before they become breaks. I get out of bed and go to the kitchen to start the coffee. As I am waiting for the pot to brew, I look around our apartment. It feels different now, warmer and more like a home again. Julian comes into the kitchen a few minutes later, rubbing his eyes. He walks right up to me and wraps his arms around me from behind. He kisses the back of my neck and whispers, "Good morning," in my ear. I lean back into him and close my eyes, savoring the feeling of his touch. I know that we still have some healing to do, but we are on the right path. Over the next few months, we continue to work on our communication. We make a pact to be honest about our failings, even the uncomfortable ones. If I am having a bad day, I tell him I am grumpy today, but I still love you. If he feels neglected, he tells me I need some attention right now. It sounds simple, but it has changed everything for us. We are more in tune with each other than we ever were before. Julian starts his own design firm, and I support him through the long hours. He supports me when I decide to go back to school to get my master's degree. We are building a life together, brick by brick, with honesty as our foundation. 1 year after the Great Silence, as we now jokingly call it, we go on a trip. We rent a small cabin in the mountains, away from the city and the noise. There is no cell service and no distractions, just the woods and the cold air. We spend the days hiking and the nights sitting by the fireplace. One evening, while we are watching the embers glow in the hearth, Julian gets quiet. He looks at me and says he has something he wants to ask me. My heart starts to race, but this time it is not with fear, it is with hope. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small velvet box. He tells me that he never wants to go a single day without me again. He says that even the hard months were worth it because they brought us here. He asks me if I will marry him and spend the rest of my life by his side. I don't even have to think about it, I say yes before he can even finish. We celebrate with cheap champagne and the sound of the wind in the trees. Looking back on that Tuesday night, I realize it was a turning point. It could have been the beginning of the end for us, but we didn't let it. We chose each other, even when it was difficult and painful. I am grateful for the silence because it taught us how to truly listen. I am grateful for the distance because it taught us how to be close. Most of all, I am grateful for Julian, the man who stayed when things got cold. We are getting married in the spring, in a small garden surrounded by friends. Sienna and Silas will be there, cheering us on as we start our new chapter. I know that life will throw more challenges our way in the future. There will be more bad days at work and more moments of frustration. But I also know that we have the tools to handle whatever comes next. We have learned that love is not just a feeling, it is an action. It is a choice you make every single morning when you wake up. It is the choice to be kind, to be patient, and to never stop reaching out. As I sit here writing this, Julian is in the other room humming to himself. He is happy and I am happy, and that is more than I could have ever asked for. I hope that anyone reading this understands that it is never too late to fix things. Don't let the silence grow until it becomes a wall you cannot climb. Be the one to reach out first, even if it is scary and your hands are shaking. It might just be the best thing you ever do for your relationship. Life is too short to live with ghosts in your own apartment. Choose warmth, choose honesty, and most importantly, choose each other. I am glad I did, and I would do it all over again if it meant being here with him. Our story started with a no, but it is going to end with a yes every single day. I look at the ring on my finger and smile, knowing we are going to be just fine. The apartment is full of light, and for the first time it feels completely whole. Julian walks into the room and catches my eye, giving me that lopsided grin I love. He sits down next to me and pulls me into his side, warm and solid and real. I lean my head on his shoulder and think about how far we have come. It was a long 6 months, but the years ahead look brighter than I ever imagined. We are no longer just roommates, we are partners in every sense of the word, and I will never, ever take his touch for granted again. Be me, Elena, be happy, be loved. Everything is going to be okay, the end.
Alright, that's the story for today. If you enjoy it, make sure like, subscribe and drop your thoughts in comment. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.